She stood beside pump number 3 with one hand holding her phone, while the other rested casually against the spotless side of her white European SUV, carrying herself like the entire station belonged to her. Her voice rang across the forecourt without hesitation. "If you refuse to cooperate, I'll call the police." The argument was over $94.17 worth of premium gasoline. According to her, the roadside sign outside my station violated the neighborhood HOA's aesthetic standards. She insisted that businesses working with the community were expected to support local leadership. What she really meant was simple. She wanted free fuel. I wiped my hands with an old shop towel and stepped out from behind the register. Bright afternoon sunlight reflected off her oversized sunglasses. She was already tapping her phone. No anger, no raised voice, just those 2 words delivered calmly. For a second she looked satisfied, almost pleased with herself, like she believed she had already won. Somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of approaching sirens drifted toward the station. I stayed exactly where I was. I had purchased the station only 6 months earlier after retiring from county service. 3 decades wearing a badge teaches a person plenty, but 2 lessons stay with you forever. Most situations spiral because someone becomes desperate to win, and paperwork almost always survives longer than pride. Most people simply saw a man wearing work boots behind a counter that always smelled faintly of motor oil and stale coffee. I drove an aging pickup with a cracked taillight. My shirts were plain. No embroidered name. Nothing that suggested rank or authority. What they never noticed were the improvements behind the scenes. Every corner of the property was covered by modern security cameras. Every fuel pump recorded synchronized audio. Backups were stored automatically in the cloud. Beneath the register sat a bound incident ledger where dates, license plates, witness names, and unusual events were recorded carefully. Old habits rarely disappear. Sometimes authority is most effective when nobody realizes you have it. Patricia had only served on the HOA board for about a year, but she carried herself like she had inherited the entire neighborhood. She lived near the gated entrance in the largest house on the street, complete with manicured hedges, stone walls, and decorative lighting that made the driveway resemble a luxury showroom after sunset. Her leased SUV always looked freshly detailed. Around town, she had earned a reputation. On the neighborhood forum, she regularly published long posts about protecting property values, emphasizing cooperation and leadership in capital letters whenever she wanted to make a point. My faded pickup never impressed her. Neither did the weathered gas station. About a month before this confrontation, she had visited and casually suggested that businesses should provide preferred pricing for HOA board members. She described it as community partnership. I explained that everyone paid exactly the same price. Some people mistake equal treatment for disrespect. Then she walked inside. The bell over the entrance gave its familiar tired ring. Removing her sunglasses slowly, she approached the counter as though preparing for a business negotiation instead of paying for fuel. "There isn't any such program," I answered. She never blinked. Businesses inside the HOA's visual district are expected to participate, especially those with signage concerns. There it was, the roadside sign again. According to her, it exceeded approved height requirements by 4 inches. She hinted that compliance reviews were already underway. Without changing expression, I turned the monitor so she could clearly see the total owed. She looked at the screen, then back at me. "You really don't want trouble with the board," she said. "If you choose not to pay, I'll void the transaction and begin drive-off procedures." She laughed. "You'd actually report me?" "I don't create problems," I replied. "I document them." That was the exact moment the conversation stopped being awkward and became deliberate. Her expression hardened. "This is harassment," she declared as she unlocked her phone again. "You're targeting a board member because I'm requesting an agreed community benefit." "There is no agreement." She turned slightly, making sure anyone nearby could hear her side of the conversation as she dialed. "Yes, I need an officer," she said loudly. "The owner is threatening me and trying to detain me over a disputed charge." Threatening. Detaining. Both were completely false. I glanced at the wall clock. 3:42 in the afternoon. Then I marked the previous 5 minutes of security footage for permanent preservation and printed the transaction receipt along with the pump activity log. Everything went neatly beside the register. 2 customers standing near the coffee station watched quietly. Neither interrupted. One casually raised his phone, not dramatically, just enough to begin recording. She finished the call, slipped the phone into her purse, and smiled confidently. They're on their way. I figured, I answered. A few seconds later, the approaching sirens became louder. Neither patrol car entered the station with lights flashing or tires screeching. Both cruisers rolled into the parking lot at normal speed before stopping near the air pump. Doors opened. The afternoon heat carried the familiar smell of gasoline mixed with warm asphalt. Officer Miller stepped inside first. Officer Diaz followed. For the briefest moment, instinct almost overruled protocol. "Chief." Miller caught himself before finishing the word. "Sir." It was subtle. Patricia noticed it. Diaz looked toward me, clearly confused. Miller remained calm. "How would you like to proceed, sir?" That single sentence changed the atmosphere inside the building. Without saying anything dramatic, I slid the printed transaction record across the counter. $94.17, I said. Premium fuel from pump 3. Video and audio are preserved. Recording begins at 3:37. No accusations. No speeches. Diaz turned toward Patricia. "Ma'am, do you intend to pay for the fuel that was dispensed?" Her confidence slipped just enough for everyone to notice. Miller requested her identification. "This is ridiculous," she protested. "I'm a sitting HOA board member. This station falls under our jurisdiction." Miller answered without emotion. "HOA regulations don't override state theft laws." Diaz shifted his weight before speaking carefully. "Ma'am, you're speaking to Chief Reynolds." Silence. Nobody moved. The only sound inside the station came from the refrigerators humming against the back wall. Her shoulders relaxed. Her chin lowered. One customer quietly exhaled, realizing the situation had completely shifted. I remained standing behind the counter. "You requested police assistance," I said calmly. "They're here. The issue is unpaid fuel. Authority never needs unnecessary volume. It only needs clarity." Patricia looked from me to the officers, trying to understand how quickly control had disappeared. "Here's the situation," I continued. "You reported that I threatened you and attempted to detain you. That statement has now been documented. If it was knowingly false, it carries legal consequences. The fuel has already been dispensed. Refusing payment constitutes theft of services. Both officers are recording this interaction with body cameras." There was no edge in my voice. She opened her mouth, hesitated, then spoke more carefully. "This is simply a misunderstanding. I believed there was a partnership agreement. There isn't. It doesn't live inside the biggest house in the neighborhood. It isn't printed beneath an impressive title or displayed on volunteer letterhead. Real authority comes from restraint, from understanding the law before quoting it, from documenting events before reacting emotionally, from allowing someone enough time to create their own record without interruption. It works exactly the same whether anyone recognizes it or not. Procedures don't change simply because someone's ego demands they should. Most mornings I still unlock the station before sunrise. The same old pickup sits outside. The same security cameras quietly record every customer who pulls up to the pumps. Not because they're afraid of me, because they understand that facts have a way of lasting. If you ever tell someone to call the police, make sure you understand exactly who you're dealing with. And if you've ever watched someone mistake position for genuine authority, you already know one simple truth.